Ah, Dungeons and Dragons. I've had a 30-year love affair with you. The pen and paper classic took hold of me in grade school and got me through the pimples of high school and onto college and girls. And on the way, we rolled a lot of D20s together. The D&D franchise has had some great milestones over the years, leaping from tabletop to video and computer games. In television had Cloudy Mountain and this gem, The Treasure of Tarman. This game was so much fun in 1982 that I would pay friends to borrow their Intellivision system and the cartridge to bring it home to play over my own house over the weekends. D&D saw a long line of success with the Gold Box series from SSI that gave you the feeling of having a party of adventurers, keeping true to the classic. And over the years, many more games used the license to bring D&D to the video gamers of the world, including Baldur's Gate and the MMO D&D Online. In fact, over 65 video game translations have been made to date. But after all that, I still would much rather play the original pen and paper version with some friends, drinking some Mountain Dew. I've got a lot invested into it over the years. Just take a look and see what I mean. Well, we're 3 minutes into the video and you're probably saying by now, hey, I thought this was a Dungeons & Dragons Neverwinter beta review. Yeah, here it comes, but it'll have to be pretty impressive to appease this diehard D&D fan, so let's take a look at the game. So Cryptic Studios is the powerhouse behind this remake of Neverwinter for the MMO experience. And if you're familiar with the design company, they're famous for City of Heroes, City of Villains, Champions Online, Star Trek Online. You know they put out really good quality stuff. One of the great things about Cryptic is how diverse you can modify and create your play characters. So let's look at some of the characters we have here. Overall, they look really nice. The armors, everything looks really nice about these characters. And I'm comparing it to, what else can I compare it than the world famous World of Warcraft. I always had a problem with Warcraft's characters, how they all looked rudimentarily the same. And you can change the hair, you can do this, little that, but the face structure was always the same. And it annoyed the heck out of me. And it was a little on the cartoony side, but after you play it, you get used to it, and obviously they never had any problems with it, just me. But I do like a game that looks really realistic. Lineage, when it first came out, looked like a very realistic kind of game. Though I didn't get into Lineage at all. It proved a little wonky for me, but let's see if we have better luck with this. So of course, every class has its abilities, special abilities. We're going over and we're going to pick our stats. We can re-roll many times as we want. I mean, obviously, depending on what kind of a character you have, certain stats are going to be better than others. For instance, fighters, you want strength, and wizards, you want intelligence, and that'll help you along the way. Now, here's the facial generator. A lot of neat stuff here. Dragon Age also had a lot of nice stuff that you can play with. That's part of the fun of these kind of games, just the creation of them. Lots of sculpts. Look at this, eyeballs. Oh, there you go. That's a lot better. We can get a good look in there. Scars and whatnot. Yeah, you can really customize these guys, which is fantastic. I always liked City of Heroes, the way you can customize your superheroes in that game. And this is following suit. Oh, that looks cool. Nice. Alright, so we're going to leap forward a little bit, so we don't have to watch all this, though it is kind of cool putting this guy together.
Hey, are you all right?
Nothing like a good old cutscene.
Move around using the WASD.
How come everybody in these games wakes up bewildered and lost? Okay, so here's how we start off. And you'll notice one of the things that they chose to do in this game is to give you a lit path as to where to go. And that's very reminiscent of Fable. And exactly a copy of Fable. It's even down to the golden sparkles. I'm not too fond of that. I feel like it's kind of leading you by the hand, and you don't have that free roam, even though it's never really truly a free roam world. But you miss that openness that, for instance, Skyrim felt like, where you can just pretty much go where you want to go. You could still go where you want to go, obviously, but the fact that the game shows you where you need to go by way of these, I don't know, this Hansel and Gretel kind of birdseed in the path kind of thing. It's just a little weird. I'm actually impressed that I'm playing this game due to the fact that it took so many twists and turns along the way to get to this point. Most games, when they do the hurdles and loops that this one did, they usually just fall apart and unravel. It seems that Atari had bought Cryptic Studios several years ago, and they were in a long-standing legal battle with Wizards of the Coast, which were the owners of the D&D property, and things weren't looking well, and they sold off Cryptic to Perfect World Entertainment that kept the ball rolling, though they made some fundamental changes to the way the game is played now. But that's cool, but we have a working title, and we're playing it, so shut up. Let's take a look at some more of the fundamentals of what we think about this. Okay, so far, I'm not really overly impressed at the way this is all starting off. It seems like every medieval fantasy game starts off with you either in a tavern meeting your party companions, or you wash up on a beach naked and confused. In fact, I think Dungeons & Dragons Online starts the same way on a beach, if I remember correctly. But it is what it is. And of course, the storyline around here surrounds a lich. Lich seems to be a really popular thing going on in fantasy games. It's been around for a long time, but well, I kind of remember vaguely a Lich character in another well-known fantasy game. And if you're a fan of Adventure Time, the cartoon, there's a Lich in that one too that is attacking everybody. Lich. New word. And speaking of attacking, let's take a look at the way we're attacking our enemies here. They've decided to use a mouse-driven attack system instead of using the keyboard. So for movements, they've decided to use the keyboard, the WASD. Wazad! This gives it more of an organic feel into combat, as opposed to linking all these keys to attacks and just sitting there when you encounter an enemy and just hit whatever the mapped keys are, or worse, using macros and just sitting there and watching your character just hack slash as his abilities regenerate, and then do it over and over and over again. So that's alright, I guess. Another thing I noticed is a lot of the larger attacking animals and creatures and bosses, they pretty much give you hints and clues as to what their next attack is. They'll usually be an area of attack or a cone of attack in red on the playfield, showing if you're in the way of their next attack. That was cool in the beginning. Now I'm sort of thinking about it. I don't know if I quite like that nearly as much as I thought I did. It's another one of those things that holds your hand and walks you through it. Just like the paths would light up for you, now we're going to see, oh, here's the attack that's coming at you. You better move, you better dodge, you better parry. So, kind of lame. I don't think that's the way I would prefer to play a game. Overall, I do like the graphics in this game. It really gives it a nice feel. This is the kind of game that I like. Graphically, you feel like you're actually in the medieval world. That's not too cartoony. I think I mentioned that earlier. Some minor little quirks, like the trees. If you look at them at certain angles, you'll see the leaves are kind of put on sheaths rather than a nice full tree. But what makes this game really stand out above all other MMOs is the fact that Neverwinter Nights has always given you the ability to make content, and now the Neverwinter MMO does the same. This is the Foundry, and the Foundry is a show place where you can create content for the game, post it, players can accept it right here, and you can see, you can pick the adventure you want, you can see the author, you can actually subscribe to the author, you can rate it, you can give the author in-game money to reward him for the good content, and when you accept it, it goes seamlessly right into the game. You accept it, and then you're off on its own little quest. Fantastic. Long overdue. This is great. And I think this is what makes this game stand out so much more over the other MMOs. It's great. Pretty much the questing is what you expect. You go up to your quest giver, you select yes if you want it, no if you don't. You usually are told what the reward is going to be, and you go off and do it. After spending who knows how many hours doing it, you go back to the waypoint that the quester gave you the quest, and you get your reward. Move on to the next. That's pretty much standard fare. In case I didn't make it clear, I mean, I hate these guided paths, but that is an option that you can turn off. I was just being a little bit annoyed at it. But yeah, it could be turned off. So, stop your belly aching. I really like the way this game looks. Nice job. Now I've got my graphics set up as far as my cards can take it, which is everything is maxed out. So this is what the game will look as good as it can get until, you know, future betas and it comes out fully polished. Obviously, this is still a beta. This is beta week 4 we're looking at right now. It does get a little congested out there with all the words and names and whatnot, but again, we can eliminate names if we choose.
Protector's Enclave needs your help.
So let's take a look at the user interface while we're in this dungeon. You'll see on the lower bottom there is a very compact interface. In the center is this great big gem that looks reminiscent of a 20-sided die, the iconic symbol of D&D right there, personified. That gem gets filled up. Those are your action points, and when it's filled to 100, you can then use these special abilities that you get as you progress through the game. That's pretty cool. It kind of puts a little bridle on you so that you have to reward yourself by using these powers at the right time. You'll also see some hotkeys down below that you can assign to certain traits that you gathered through the game or you've picked as you level up. And then to the right of that are slots for consumables like potions or scrolls. The map in the upper right hand corner is very reminiscent of the maps in most MMOs, so you'll feel familiar looking at that.
Gained a
To manage inventory, the game uses a paper doll system where you see your character and all your items in your possession, and you could just use them. Some items won't be able to be used, and they'll be grayed out. They'll either be unusable because you are not the right level, or they're unidentified, and you can identify them with spells or taking them to someone who can identify them for you. Now, there's a bonfire of life. Throughout the dungeons, you might find these fires, or throughout the game, and if you go over to them and press F, you'll be fully healed. And the F button functions as a all-purpose action button if you need to open doors, open chests, what have you. So as it stands for me right now, at Beta Test 4, Neverwinter will be a solid MMO with all the things that you'd come to expect. Cryptic Studios tries to sprinkle Dungeons & Dragons terms and enemy names and Forgotten Realms towns that fans of D&D might know, but in all honesty, this could really be any medieval fantasy world. But I do enjoy the character creation process between all the races and classes, male and female, and all the individual nuances you can control. Boy, I'd guess the combinations would be well into the several thousands of creations that you can make uniquely to you. And that's awesome. I love that. The controls are fine. For a guy like me who prefers to navigate with the mouse, it's a little change, but the controls are completely acceptable. The combination mouse button and keyboard attack system makes fighting feel less mechanical than other MMOs I've played, and that's a good thing. The game looks good. I mean, good for a currently unfinished product. And the concept artist did a really good job with cities and dungeons. I always look at the artwork in the game. The color palette isn't annoyingly pastel. The light effects on metallic armor are really sweet. It just looks pretty damn good. I'm a sucker for like the little nuances, waving tall grass or realistically fluttering banners. So I hope they continue to add these little extra visual features for players with high-end graphic cards. They can always, dumb them down if they can't, but I really would love to see that kind of stuff. Now, it has to be said, the world of high fantasy is chock full of cliches. I mean, if you don't have a dragon, it's not a fantasy game. But as long as the fan base continues to enjoy it, I don't see it ever really stopping. I guess that's what I've always been afraid of. One of my big fears was that the unwashed masses would get a hold of an environment that I love, D&D, and have a history so long with it, and they'd eventually run it to the ground and kill it. But that doesn't really happen in the real world, so I don't think I have anything to really fear. Oh wait, Disney acquired Star Wars. Okay. All in all, I can see myself playing Neverwinter, especially since it's free to play. I don't think I'd really be saying that if there was a monthly fee attached to it. The thing that I'm most excited about is the Foundry. I'm looking forward to creating content for other players to explore. I'd rather make quests than play quests. That's just the way I am. As a dungeon master, I like to make the world. And if it weren't for that, Neverwinter would just be another quality MMO in a crowd of fantasy MMOs. Of course, this is all subject to change. As more playtesting is carried out, there certainly is a potential for Neverwinter as being one of the greats.